And then really, if you have a great team, it really makes the process very efficient, budget friendly, and less stressful on the client, right? and
Dream Home Hunter Deep Dive.
All right, thanks. I feel honored today to have the president and founder of A Finer Touch Construction out of Scottsdale, Arizona, Mr. Brad Leavitt. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Keith.
I'll let you describe what your company does.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a custom home builder and commercial contractor. So we're a general contractor here in the Scottsdale, Greater Phoenix area, and we focus primarily on new build construction, both commercial and residential, and that go anywhere from new custom homes to on the residential side, and then on the commercial side, restaurants and hair salons, pet palace, ground up retail, all kinds of fun stuff.
I would let people know I connected with you on LinkedIn, and one, I love construction, even though that's one reason I got into being a real estate agent. But you had some great, even just concepts to build and showing the finer details of how the process works. And from an engineering background, I love that. And so I think it was Scott Carson, architect, who you showed some of his things that you guys did, and it just started following you guys ever since then. So
well, good. I'm glad. Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. We enjoy what we do. So
what did you do before construction?
It's funny. I grew up in San Diego, so my father was a contractor. He was an electrician actually by trade, and my grandfather had started an electrical company. So all my uncles were, in some form of construction.
Mm-hmm.
So through high school, I did work for my uncles as an electrician. But one of the fun jobs I had actually, outside of construction was working at In-N-Out. So doing the burgers, food industry,
mm-hmm.
as you would as a youth, and so. Really enjoyed learning that side of things. In-N-Out is, if you're familiar with their brand, they're all about people smiling and happy and
mm-hmm.
good fresh food. And you kind of learn that customer service and to be happy and positive, right? So
that's exactly. I don't believe I would have my ability to deal with people like I do if I didn't have my background in the food service industry. It's
right?
Just you learn problem solving, and you learn just to be able to handle and build people quite a bit. So.
And you know what? People can be really tough. And what's interesting, and if you're in any customer service industry, whether you're a mechanic or contractor in the food service, you have to learn how to resolve concerns and issues,
mm-hmm.
incorrect orders and be a problem solver. And so I totally agree. Coming from that background, you can't make everyone happy, and you have to do your best. And it just sets you up for, good communication skills moving forward.
Exactly. How did that transition into construction?
So going back to that, through high school, I would work as an electrician, and we'd work on these amazing homes. My uncles, we'd have projects in Coronado and Rancho Santa Fe and La Jolla, and these amazing beach communities there throughout Southern California. And I realized at a young age, I was the grunt. I was the youngest cousin. So I was the one stuck going under the house and in the attic, especially on remodels. And, I saw the superintendent that would, each day have direction for us on what we need to do. And I was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy telling him what to do. Right. So that led me to the pursuit. I actually went to school. I graduated in construction management, and then always had a passion, for high-end construction. And, I'm sure we'll get into it, but that led me to Phoenix through my first position and so on.
And then how did that get into doing like dream home design build work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I always wanted to get into high-end residential, as I alluded to, but one of the challenges, it's like anything in life, you need experience, right? You can't
mm-hmm.
just jump and start doing high-end custom, without experience. So I worked for a production builder and for a year, and it's a great experience because I really understood the challenge of managing a lot of people and building tight timelines with a lot of homes on my plate, because these are entry-level homes for most
mm-hmm.
people. Worked there for a year, which allowed me an opportunity to interview for a position for a firm in Scottsdale that was under construct or had been contracted to build the Omni Mauna Lucia. And the Mauna Lucia is a resort in Paradise Valley. It's a $300 million resort
mm-hmm.
and hotel. And part of the hotel has, the hotel property has the pools and the guest rooms and the wedding chapel and all these fun venues. But then there's also 34 custom homes. There's 34 people that live at the hotel full time,
wow.
Which is really cool. Yeah. And so the position opened up, and I'd always been taught, chase experience, not money. And the pay wasn't tremendous, but the opportunity was. And so I jumped on that. And that really, 3 years working at that hotel resort gave me the experience and just a lot of networking opportunity to really understand commercial, residential at a very, very high level.
Fantastic. And I love, like I said, I love your finished work, and I'll try to get some pictures of some of your projects that you have posted on your page as well, so that people can see once I get this up as well. And so for people who don't know, like a custom home design build, I know it's an intricate process, but just briefly, how do you begin a project?
That's a great question. So ideally, in a perfect world, a homeowner such as yourself, Keith, would reach out and say, okay, let's get our team together. Let's get a contractor we can trust and that we believe in. Let's get an architect and a designer, right? You get that team together. Mm-hmm. And then really, if you have a great team, it really makes the process very efficient, budget friendly, and less stressful on the client, right? and really the key is, in Phoenix, the way we work is most of our homes are scattered lot, which means a homeowner would purchase the dirt, they'd purchase the property, and then they would hire our team to build their dream home. And so the day one, we look at entitlements and we look at the property and easements, and we try to understand what are the restrictions of the property. Mm-hmm. So that way we can understand where the home can be built and what size it can be built. And then from there, it's pretty easy. We interview the client and we understand their living and what they need and how many bedrooms, how do they use a dining room, a formal dining room, how do they use their kitchen? And so you start asking these questions, and then we come up with a floor plan, and then it starts moving. You come up with once you finalize the floor plan, then you work on the exterior elevations and roof plan and design. And then once that's done, we can start working on engineering and interior finishes. And
the details of the work.
Yeah, all the fun stuff.
Yep. All the fun stuff. What's a common myth that people would have about your industry?
That's a great question. And I would say that it may not even be a myth. There may be a lot of truth to this, mm-hmm. is that a lot of people by the end of it say, I hate my contractor. This has been the worst experience. Don't build. It's like exhausting. And so I would say in some cases that does happen. But the way around that is what I alluded to. I think if you hire people that are passionate, and keep in mind that when you're interviewing a builder or an architect, it's almost as if you're married to them for a year and a half, 2 years, right? So find someone you can get along with. And if you can build that team and have that synergy together and that relationship and open communication, it'll change that myth and falsity that's out there about, that I'm going to hate my builder, or it's going to be so stressful on my marriage or on me personally, right? So, yeah.
I think be preemptive. It feels like you can kind of take care of a lot of those, do your research, and you can get a relationship with someone, so solve a lot of those problems to begin with.
Absolutely. And I'll say the funny thing, there's a video on our website actually that we had a client do, and they said, AFT saves marriages one house at a time, right? And so that's our goal, right? That at the end of it, that it was a very streamlined, stressless project for our client.
If we always come into challenges when we do any type of line of work, but especially in real estate, what is a project that maybe started off, didn't go as planned, and then how did you overcome those obstacles to make it a success?
That's a great question. And I will say that it seems to be every project. I wish I could, sometimes from afar, we make it look as if, everything's perfect. And,
mm-hmm.
Social media tends to do that. But the reality is,
there's always something.
There's always something. It's a tough industry. I mean, you're dealing with a lot of labor. You're dealing
mm-hmm.
with handcrafted people, and not all of them are great communicators and organized and efficient and show up. And so, but I'll give you a specific example. So we had a signature project in Scottsdale, and it was in a signature community, and it was our first project in this community, which is where we wanted to build. And we had an issue where, unbeknownst to us, the truss company and the framer made alterations to the plans. Mm. So they're like, we don't really like how this looks, and this is going to be easier if we do it this way. And so they made some changes. And didn't tell anyone. They didn't tell us as the builder. They didn't tell the architect. So we began framing. We framed the second floor. We set the trusses by the crane, and we get our surveyor out. And in Scottsdale, they're very adamant that we have a height limit. So our building can only be 30 feet off finished floor, right?
Okay.
And the house was 33 feet. It was 3 feet too high. Yeah. And so here we are. We do the survey. And we're like, we're at 33 feet. Well, okay, before we rebuild this house, here's this major issue. let's go to the city. So we go to the city and see if we can get a variance. And of course they say no. So we tried every avenue possible. They said no. And so we have to go back. And now's why the client has to hire a good builder, right? That we don't just put it on the owner. Mm-hmm. Now it's up to us to resolve this. And so we had to go back with our engineering and architect and framer and truss company and essentially redesign this project, which we did. And we ended up taking the trusses off, rebuilt that second floor, reinstalled new trusses, and finished the project. And fortunately, it only set us behind 4 weeks.
Nice.
And our client was patient. And through that, I think the biggest thing is communication. We're open with our client. We let them know exactly what was happening, why it happened, and that we're here to resolve it. And I think that's key to any problem you deal with in construction.
That's a great story. I love that. And it's probably kind of like trying to pick your favorite song or favorite child, but do you have any favorite recently completed or upcoming projects you like to talk about?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. So we have a very exciting project. We have two that I'll speak about. So, our company, we've continued to evolve over the years, where our goal is to become more efficient and better builders, and also build homes that are more sustainable and energy efficient, right? And so we're very fortunate to have been awarded a net zero home or a passive home. And what that means is we're going to be building a home in Scottsdale. It's actually in Cave Creek. And it is truly going to be off the grid. So the home is self-sustaining. So we're going to be using a lot of materials that will stand the test of time, that don't use a lot of natural resources. And then in addition, with solar power and solar water heaters and the technology we're using with quad glaze 4-pane windows and ICF construction and SIP truss system and all these, I say complicated, but all these little nuances to it, the home will actually be a net zero home, which means it will only use the energy it can provide.
That's awesome. Fantastic.
So yeah, it's super cool. And then outside of that, that's a little different. We have another project that we're kicking off here. And it's going to be a lot of fun. This is one of those trophy homes you get to do every once in a while. And, it's going to be this amazing 20,000 square foot house. It has, a separate tennis court, like full-size regulation tennis court. It has a separate indoor basketball and volleyball and trampoline barn.
Wow.
I know it has the pool system has a lazy river with the pool. So it's just all these little fun elements. It's almost like a little resort for our clients that entertain a lot. So that will be fun.
I look forward to seeing the progress pictures on those.
Yeah, you'll love that one.
Second last question. What does home mean to you?
That's a great question. So for us, I would say home means comfort, right? It means a peaceful place. And we'll have people reach out and they're like, hey, Brad, you do these big homes. And that's not always the case. We build a lot of homes that are smaller in scale. I mentioned at 20,000, but we've done homes at 1,500, right? Square feet. And what I've found is for clients, the definition of home, it doesn't matter the size or the upgrades or the details. Is it a sanctuary, right? Is it a safeguard? Is it a place where they can come home, they can meditate, they can have downtime, and they can re-energize, for their lifestyle. Some of them want an at-home gym or an at-home office, and some of them don't. And so we just want to cater that home to be very personal to them.
Fantastic. And I always like to finish with a food question because I come from the food service industry. So what's the first place that you want to go eat once the time and distancing allows it?
Well, there's a lot of places. I'm a foodie. So I will say there's a great steakhouse here, Steak 44. Guess I give them a plug. And so, they have exceptional service, exceptional food. One of those rare places you go to maybe once every 6 months or once a year for a special occasion. But I think having that my wife and I can't go out for dinner, we're definitely going to have to go there once it all opens again.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks again, Brad, for taking a few minutes to talk with me. And I'll get some links in the description to your site and also your company.
Awesome. Thanks, Keith. Really appreciate it.
All right. Have a great day.
Dream Home Hunter Deep Dive, a Keith Pratt collaborative.